Forever. What's going on? I'm David O'Brien, your Braves beat writer at The Athletic. I didn't have my microphone up here. I'm with my co-host, Eric O'Flaherty, former Braves reliever. What's going on, Eric?
What's up, Dave?
Not much, man. I was talking to Spencer Strider yesterday and about coming on the podcast
Yeah,
while he's down. He said he would do it. So
cool.
that'd be cool, man. He'd be good to talk to for half an hour. That guy's he's he's just refreshing. He's got thoughts on everything. But he's really got a lot of thoughts on the injuries and all that. I mean, he gets kind of defensive, I think, but he makes some good points. You know,
What's he
I mean,
defensive about?
I think from his perspective, his whole, not in a bad way, but I mean, his whole thing is, velocity and overpowering and all that. And obviously, we think he can pitch a couple of miles an hour lower, but when you've got where you are and you reach this stature in major leagues because you are so overpowering and you're this kind of a freak, 5'9" or 10, 5'10", and can dominate and throw so hard and all that. It's hard to accept that. It's hard to when you hear people say that you're hurt because you throw so hard. When he has been told and has reason to believe it's kind of a freak thing. He has that bone chip that he was otherwise wouldn't have gotten hurt. But he made some points about how guys got hurt 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah,
Same type things probably. We didn't know about it because you didn't put into an MRI machine the first time you had soreness. And we've talked about this before. Maddox
don't
pitched for
ever do the
years and
MRI. Yeah,
years with a partial ligament tear. And
so
like
did I.
yeah, and Spencer said, Maddox, I guarantee you his elbow the last 5, 6 years of his career was so calcified in there that he just kept pitching and so
Yeah,
calcified over and protected it, you know, that if he'd have gone in for MRI and today, this day and age, they would have said have the surgery now and come back next year and all that. But he thinks a lot of guys' careers, you know, you look at some of these careers that ended, after 6, 7, 8 years of good pitchers and all this. He thinks that they had the same type stuff they have today. They just didn't have the ability to have an MRI and go in and have surgery.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that
for
it's a lot
sure.
more, yeah. So he had some good stuff about it. It's kind of just a different way to look at it because I think we're all kind of talking into an echo chamber to some degree about what we think is the reasons and all this. But it's just a refreshing guy to talk to about the stuff. The Braves last night they had a chance to sweep the Cubs, but that ended in the first inning pretty much when they came out. The Cubs came out and hit a first pitch of the game. Toshman hits a home run off of Charlie. He gives up 3 in the first inning. He gave up more hits in a first inning, 4, hit the same number of hits than the previous 2 Braves starters, Sale and Lopez, gave up in their entire starts against the Cubs. They each held him to 2 hits, 5 scoreless and 7 scoreless. So Lopez only came out because he had a little back tightness, which he'll be fine next time around. A lot of people panicked, said, "Oh no, Lopez got back tightness now." It's nothing. I mean, people don't understand how often guys get that kind of thing. It's like you could keep pushing through it if you needed to, but there's no need to. So, but anyway, Cubs were overdue and they had a big inning against Charlie. It happens. And the way the Braves offense is going right now, you get down 4 early. And it's not like last year when you're like, no big deal. You gave up 3 in the first inning. We'll get that back. It's a little different right now for the Braves offense. And they faced some good Cubs pitching in the series too. Some real good Cubs pitching.
Yeah,
So they went 2 out of 3. They lose last night 7-1. Um, I like where they're at. The offense is really showing some signs now coming around, especially Olson. He had 2 homers in about 5 days. 5 days. Some RBIs, really starting to get some results for those hard hit balls he had. And they did this without Riley. He's missed 3 starts. He'll be back in the lineup, I think, Friday. They kind of dodged a bullet with that. They got him out with just soreness in the side, not an oblique strain or anything. He'll be back Friday. Um, and with Acuña not doing really anything yet. And I liked Snit gave him a day off. I know Snit doesn't like to give days off, but he saw what I think all of us have seen with Acuña lately. It's just didn't really look into it lately, or like he's having a lot of fun out there, a lot of energy, his usual pop in his step, bouncing his step. So Snit gave him the day off, and that coupled with today, that'll be 2 days of rest for him.
yeah. It's not fun to suck, and he doesn't suck right now. He's just not himself. But anytime
Yeah,
you're playing below your standards, I mean, it's hard to fake it. It's hard to look like you're having fun when you're missing pitches you should hit, or if you're a relief pitcher and you come into games and you see a 5.6 ERA up there, it's hard to be the fun guy. I mean, you want to be at your best, and that's when it's fun.
I think when you're used to being, one of the two or three best players in the league, and I'm sure in his view and a lot of people's view, he's the best player in the league last year in
Yeah,
baseball last year. He was voted by the players as the best player overall in both leagues. I'm sure it's hard when you're that good to just be an average player. And that's what he is right now. He's an average to below average hitter right now, as hard as that is to believe. If you'd have told me that a year ago, that's where Acuña's going to be at, I'd say you're crazy. But right now, he is literally at 99 OPS plus, which is 1 percentage point below an average major league hitter.
yeah.
He was 168 last year,
Then
led the National League.
if you tell me you think he's going to finish there, I'll say you're crazy. I mean,
Right,
slumps can happen to anybody.
right. So his last 3 healthy seasons, partially healthy before he got hurt in 21. Before he got hurt, he had a 158 OPS plus that year. But the year before that, 2020, 156. Last year, 168. So I'm going to throw out 2022, which is the first year back from the surgery, when he was off and on inflammation all year and was hobbled by it. So the last 3 seasons, though, 156, 158, and 168 OPS plus. That means he has been at least 56% above the average hitter. He's basically been 1.5 players
Yeah.
plus with offensive production in those years. And he's at
Yeah,
99 right now.
he's used to being the show. He's used to being what everybody came to see, and he's used to delivering on that. And that's what he thrives on. I feel like that first at bat to lead off the game, the whole thing. He thrives on attention. And
Yeah.
you don't get it the same when you're not putting up the numbers. And it's crazy in this game how quick that goes. It's always on to the next hot thing, whoever we're talking about. If you watch MLB Network,
Yeah.
it's whoever's hot, that's who it is. It's like they don't get stuck on a player for very long.
They turn the page quickly, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's used to doing what Mookie has continued to do this year, lead off all these games with home runs. And what Toshman did last night, hit the first pitch of the game out of the park. And it's not happening this year. Right now, he's got a 3-year All-Star streak going. Even the year back from surgery, he made the All-Star team. He's made it 3 straight years, and 4 out of 5. And right now,
Voting's got to be closing up pretty soon, right? I mean, they do it based on like the first 2 months.
yeah, no, it's a ways because they haven't given the first update yet.
Okay.
So I'm not sure where he stands. You know how that goes. It won't surprise me if he's still among the leaders.
Starters, yeah.
Because that's the only way he's going to make it is if he's voted to start.
I wonder the last time
Not
a
gonna be
guy
added.
won an MVP and was healthy and didn't make the All-Star team the next year.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know what? I might have mentioned this before on here, but you know what's a crazy stat? One of those trivia things is the last time when Chipper Jones won the MVP in 99, he didn't make the All-Star team that year. He had an incredible second half. He carried the Braves past the Mets in the second half. When Terry Pendleton won MVP in 91, he didn't make the All-Star team that year.
Really?
Because he carried them down the stretch when they won,
Yeah.
finished the worst of first year. So that was one of those weird things is before Freddie won the last MVP, they had consecutive MVPs the Braves had who did not make the All-Star team.
Yeah, I mean, I could see. You don't know when it's going to click with him, but you know it's going to click, and I could see him fighting his way, like, because when he gets hot, nobody can get hotter. So I could see him fighting his way into the conversation again in the second half.
Yeah, and we saw some signs of it there. I thought he was really starting to come out of it. He was hitting some balls hard. He hit the home run. He was stealing some bases. Then he had the unfortunate back-to-back games where he got picked off 3 times, which that just doesn't happen. And I think that really got him down because he knew he screwed up, and he didn't try to make excuses. To his credit, he did not make excuses. He goes, "I was caught off guard. It can't happen." It took us out of some opportunities, scoring opportunities. So he didn't try to make excuses about it. Snit told him, Snit said, that first night he kind of dismissed it, said they had great moves and the one was a balk and blah blah blah, but I mean, most pickoffs are balks if you look at it. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
so you can't really say that. You just got to be more aware. And then he got picked off by a left-hander. It just was not
Well, he didn't
completely caught
slide.
off. Yeah. So that was bad. It looked bad. It hadn't happened. Nobody had been picked off 3 times in 2 games since Scott Podsednik with the White Sox back in 05.
Yeah, I couldn't remember a single time I saw somebody even get picked off on back-to-back days.
Kilvio
That
Veras was the
one
last
thing I
Brave.
thought was kind of interesting is how the Mets, how Alonso was tagging the body and the legs instead of going for the hands.
Yeah.
Because that could mess up with your distancing, like what you think you can get back to. Because normally first basemen go to the hand. They try
Uh-huh.
to beat your hand to the bag. I thought, with replay now, I think you can do that where you can just try to
Right.
get that body as fast as possible. And if you
Right.
tag them before they hit the bag, but I don't know if you could have done that without replay.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the one was overturned. He got called
Yeah,
out on the overturn, but that
exactly. So
wouldn't have
there's one.
happened before replay. So,
Yeah,
because visually with the eye, you're right. You're looking, your instinct is to look at the bag and when the hand's touching the bag. So if the
yeah,
guy's dropping it on your ass, you won't
yeah,
see that with the naked eye. So yeah,
yeah. I
that's
thought that was
interesting.
kind of interesting that's a possibility now because I bet 10, 15 years ago you could have got say 8 out of 10 guys on the body and you wouldn't have got the call. Maybe one or two, but now it seems like, I mean, if they get the replays right every time and you get to watch it, so why wouldn't you tag there where you're closer to them?
Yeah, that's kind of like what replay has done to the play at second base where the guy overslides and takes his hand off
Yeah,
the bag for
I
a
hate that
split
one.
second. I
Yeah,
hate it.
I hate
You don't
that
see
one.
it as much right now, so people are so aware of it now.
Yeah,
They're scared of it. So, but yeah, that one for that first year that was in effect, I was like, this is not the spirit of this rule. This is accomplishing nothing.
yes, yeah,
You know, your only thing you're doing, only thing you were doing at that time was diminishing guys' desire to steal because they're like, I'm not going to take the chance if my
if I come off
inertia
the
is going to
bag for a
take me.
split second and I beat the throw
Yeah,
by, half a step.
yeah, you're not going to hurt yourself trying to hold on to the bag.
Yeah,
Um, but so yeah, I like where the Braves are. It's just that they can't afford to let the Phillies get too far out, I don't think, because the Phillies are damn good and their starting pitching is the best in the baseball right now, I think. And that's saying something because the Braves is outstanding starting pitching. But I mean, when you look at the Braves, I'll take theirs against anybody right now, except
yeah,
maybe the Phillies, and it's really close. But the Braves with the way Sale's pitching, I mean, this is vintage Sale, what he's doing
yeah,
right now.
yeah,
Ronaldo Lopez has been a revelation since the return to the rotation, and Max Fried is back to being Max Fried. It looks
yeah,
great. So those
yeah.
three is outstanding. But the Phillies can counter with Wheeler, Nola, who just threw a complete game 2 nights ago, shutout, didn't he? Yeah, shutout. And Suarez, who is like playoff Suarez all of a sudden. I mean, look at his
Yeah.
numbers. Suarez right now, Suarez or Shota from the Cubs might be the Cy Young winner right now.
Yeah, Suarez I've had my eye on for a few years. I feel like just one of those guys that seem to rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
And like when that's in you, pretty soon you're going to figure out how to tap into that all the time. And it seems like he's doing that this year.
Looks like he might wants to make some money.
Yeah, is he going to ARB?
No, I'm not sure where he is at. I think he's past that. I'm not even sure, but man, his next contract, he keeps this up, he's going to get a fat raise. He's pitching great, but and then beyond that, that's where I think the Phillies get the advantage. I mean, they moved a guy to the bullpen who had a sub-2 ERA.
I think Suarez is making money for the first time.
Oh, he is make. He got the one first contract. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I talked about what that did, for me not having to worry about getting sent down. This might be his first comfortable season.
Um,
Now he made 2.9 last year. He's been good.
what's he
Never
make?
mind.
What's he getting?
Making 5 this year. He made 2.9 last year. So
Yeah, but
he's
that's
doing all
not.
right.
How much service time has he got?
4 years. So he's second year arm.
So he's going to get a nice raise
He
next
had
year,
10.
man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big ass raise.
Yeah.
I can see them trying to sign him to an extension before it becomes too unaffordable.
Yeah. Starters do well in arbitration.
Oh, starters and closers.
Yep.
They're still a little bit dated in the thinking with closers. And I understand that's why some pitchers, when analytics wants to use pitchers, the best pitcher, the best reliever in the sixth or seventh inning, if the matchups and you want to get those outs right then, I can see where a guy in his head. I mean, if a team guy says yes, I'll do whatever. But in your head, you're going, I'm not going to get paid for getting outs in the sixth inning, man. We
Yeah, you take
get those saves to arbitration.
yeah, if you can't really take fire extinguishings to R, but you can take saves. I mean, they take holds into account, innings pitched, bulk, stuff like that, but saves are like worth double or triple what a hold is.
Yeah. So yeah, Ranger Suarez right now, dude, 8-0 in 9 starts with a 1.37 ERA, 58
Damn.
strikeouts, 10 walks, and 59 innings. He's dealing 0.76 whip, 171 opponent's average. He's been absolutely dominant.
Yeah. And I
Uh,
mean, you knew that was in there if you watched some of his playoff starts and some of the games he's pitched against the Braves. Some guys just have that tendency to have too many blow-ups during the year.
you talk about underrated. The guy that they faced last night, the Braves, Assad,
It was good.
he's 4-0 with a 1.49 ERA in 9 starts.
Yep.
1.49. But the Braves have faced a run of pitching in this last 2.5 or 3 weeks. I can think off the top of my head the Guardians, Seattle, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, and the Cubs. They face some incredible pitching, man.
Yeah, there's no more white-handers in the game.
No.
You're not getting any of those guys throwing 89 with an okay breaking ball that locate anymore. You know, I mean, it's you got your hands full almost every night, it seems like.
Assad 1.03 whip, 201 opponent's average.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then and Cutter Crawford with the Red Sox. Remember that dude?
Hmm.
He pitched. They've Glass now. They faced some of the top guys in the league here in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I
So
think I saw the Phillies haven't played the
no,
toughest schedule.
crazy how few. I think it's like 9 teams with a winning record right now,
Yeah.
and they're or 11. They're like 3-6 or something. I guess teams with a winning record, including the Braves.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just cleaned up against the bad teams. So we'll
And that's what
see.
you're supposed to do. I mean, you got
Right?
to give them credit for doing what they're supposed to against those teams because that's what almost always
Absolutely.
decides your season is what you do against the bad teams. Battle
All
against the
you
good
can do is
ones,
play
and
your
if you
schedule.
clean up. Yeah. Yeah. If you clean up against the bad teams and battle against the good ones, you're usually in the mix. But so you got to give them credit for that. But it's just something to keep an eye on is
Right.
Brave schedule has not been easy.
It just means the Phillies are due to have a big run against some real
Yeah.
tough teams coming up. They got to face the Dodgers a couple times. They got 3 more against the Braves. They got to face the Yankees. I think they're Orioles. I mean, they're gonna have some tough opponents coming up, but they have cleaned up against the lesser teams, no doubt. Um, I was just going to look real quick at the Phillies starting pitching. Um, they've got okay. Is Spencer Turnbull? Did he come off the IL? What was his deal? Or did he go? No, he's the one that went to the pen, right? Yeah, he went to the pen, and he had a sub 2 ERA at the time. He's 2-0 with 2.11 in 9 games, 6 starts. Suarez, we read his. You got Nola is 5-2, 3.10, 9 starts. We've talked about him, how he'll have a game where he gets blown up, his ERA goes up a run because he's had like 2 bad games, and then he looks like he did the other night with the complete game.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just be 55 strikeouts, 15 walks in 58 innings, 109, 1.09 whip. And then of course Wheeler, who got his ERA went up because he had 1 bad start, really bad, but he's still 2.53 and 9 starts, 65 strikeouts and 16 walks in 53 innings, 0.99 whip and a 1.90 opponent's
Yeah.
average.
Those guys, I mean, they're always capable. They're going to be your number 1 and 2. I don't even know. I mean, if Suarez did this all year, I think Nola still gets the number 2 spot.
Yeah, it's just as the Braves know, that's a hell of a division series matchup facing those
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
And even last year when they had to play the wild card series, they could still bring, with that extra built-in day in the series, you were still able to use those guys.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, the Braves are in a good spot with their starting pitching. I mean, I know Charlie got lit up last night, but Charlie's been solid. And when you look at what Lopez has done, just tremendous. I mean, 1.34 ERA in 7 starts, 40 strikeouts and 16 walks and 40 innings, 196 opponents average, 1.09 whip. What Sale has done, just you can't even express how important it's been. And he's been on fire lately. Sale has. He's got this winning streak going. Sale's for the year, he's 6-1, 2.54 ERA in 8 starts, 61. This is crazy. 61 strikeouts, 8 walks in 49 and 2/3 innings, 0.89 whip, and a 198 opponent's average. That's vintage Chris Sale.
Yeah, the 8 walks. I mean, that's if he can do that, if he can just limit the walks, he's too hard to hit. I mean, I think about being a lefty and trying to stay in the box on that slider where if it happens to be a fastball, it's hitting you in the face. Like where his arm release is like in line with where a lefty's standing in the box. How are you going to stay in there on that? And I mean, it might start at you and break all the way to a ball. For me, he's as good a lefty as I've seen.
Okay, listen to this 5-start winning streak he's got going. He's 5-0 with a 1.41 ERA, 178 opponent's average, 472 opponents OPS in his last 5 starts, and get that strikeouts to walks. 41 strikeouts, 3 walks in 5 starts. In 32 innings, 41 strikeouts, 3 walks.
I mean,
He's walked one guy in his last 3.
Huh? Yeah. It's easy to walk 3 in a start.
Yeah. And he's walked 1 in his last 3 starts. 28 strikeouts, 1 walk in 18 innings.
If he does that, he can't fail. Once in a while, he's going to just not have his stuff and get hit. But if he just walked 1 per start, I mean, 98% of those starts are going to be good.
It's funny, that description you just gave. Did you see what Olsen said? You asked him about his slider because Olsen faced him back in 18 or whatever when Olsen was up with Oakland, when Sale was on top of the world with the top 5 finishes every year in the side. And he said, we asked him the other day, is this slider back to where it was, then? He goes, it might be better.
Yeah.
He said, it might be better, man. And I asked him, what's it like facing that slider as a left-hander? What are the guys telling you at first base? And when I asked him, after I asked him, I thought, okay, well, not many of them are saying anything because they don't get to first base. But he said, well, it's always just tough and bad. But as a left-hander, to commit to the slider is really hard because if you do it, it's coming at you like a fastball to your face is what it has to look like if you're going to hit his slider as a left-hander.
Mm-hmm.
So he said it's hard to commit to it because it's a fastball coming at your face.
Yeah.
It turns out to be a slider.
Well, this is where his arm release is. If you think about it, when his arm is it's basically sidearm, right? So it's sticking out 3 feet to the left of his body when he throws. And
he's 6'7".
Yeah, if you line that up with the plate, that's where the hitter's standing, 3 feet to the left of the plate. So, I mean, that's where I would start my slider if I needed to get a strike. And I didn't have his slider, but that's what I did. I just threw it right at the lefty. And you throw it there and it breaks over the plate, you get your strike, and then you kind of work your way out. But he's starting way farther left than I did. I mean, he almost might have to think about throwing it slightly behind him to throw it for a strike.
Yeah.
Which I think Randy Johnson's a pretty good comparison for. I know he's not 6'10", and Randy Johnson's a Hall of Famer or whatever, but that's a pretty good comparison for just like John Kruk. You saw that in the All-Star game where he just said, I don't want to deal with this, and went and hit right-handed.
Yeah.
Turned his helmet around, went to the other side of the box. And that's kind of what I think Sale is. And I noticed that Harper got a day off like the 2nd or 3rd day of the season. That's telling me a lot too.
No doubt. No doubt. So they just got to keep him healthy. That's it. Yeah. There's no question about how good he's going to be. They just got to keep him healthy because when he's healthy, he's elite. Strikes. Yeah. He's just elite. And Max the same way right now. I don't know what was going on with him early, but he's back to being Max. And it's like I asked Charlie about being part of this rotation, where those 3 guys are going right now. How satisfying is it to see because they've all been through something. Lopez, 3 years as a reliever, coming back to the rotation, Sale with the injuries, Free with the first 2 starts of the year. And like Charlie said, he goes, I really love seeing Chris come back because of all the injuries that he's had,
Yeah.
and to see him back doing this. He's in his mid-30s now, making that push. And Charlie didn't say it, and I went back and said the push for what, the Hall of Fame, and he goes, he didn't want to say it, but he goes, look at the numbers, and it's like he's right. If he
Yeah.
could do what he's doing right now for another 4 years, he's a
Yeah.
Hall of Famer,
Yep.
no doubt.
And I don't think you could argue that that's not one of the best lefty. It's one of the best lefty arms I've ever seen.
Yeah, he
I
had that
mean,
Hall of Fame run. He just did the injury
got hurt.
sidetracked it.
Yeah, and I think that's why guys are always so happy for you when you come back after a couple of years of guys that have been through that struggle of wondering if you're ever going to be the same again, wondering if you're ever going to get out there, how deflating it is when you think you're back and another injury pops up and you just
Yeah.
want to lie to the trainers and try to pitch through it. You realize you can't, and it's time to go back to the injured list again. That battle mentally, I mean, it just drains you when you can't get your body right and keep playing. So anybody that's been through that and they see you come back and be yourself again and you get to taste it and feel that feeling of being the man again, I think everybody's fired up for you.
I don't think most of us can understand how special you have to be, how tough you have to be mentally to be able to go through what he went through, because he made all the money. They had a huge contract that he signed with Boston. And then he kept getting these weird injuries. He had Tommy John, but then most of them were weird. He fell off a bike. He got hit by a line drive. He had the scapula thing because he's probably just so skinny and throws so much torque.
Yeah.
So when it's year after year after year for 4 years,
Yeah.
it's got to be hard not to go, let's just take it to the house, man. I've got $150 million in the bank. Why am I doing this to myself? Rehab after rehab after rehab. I think if you get through that and now you can be healthy, I think we're seeing the fruits of that. Obviously, he's incredibly tough mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And he must really appreciate where I'm back now. I'm feeling as good as I did when I was dominating. I'm dominating again. He's probably got as much motivation now as anybody, even though he's got all the money in the bank. And he's, like Charlie said, he probably thinks, hell, I can get the Hall of Fame.
Well, and even just to keep playing. I mean, that's
Winning,
probably
yeah.
my biggest regret is that I didn't keep trying, because I got to that point where I was just like, that's it. My arm just was not getting there. Things kept popping up. I had the scar tissue wrapped around my nerve, another surgery, and I would go through it where I'd think I was back and I have a good spring, and then I couldn't keep up with the workload of like getting off the mound every day during the regular season. And I got to a point where I was like, I'm shutting it down for this year. I'm going to take a lot of time. And I mean, it took 3 years for my body to just feel fun again to use after I was done playing, for me to figure out what I needed to do to be able to run, play hoops, and do all that type of stuff. And now my knees are healthy, my shoulder feels good. I can play catch with my son, everything's good. And I'm like, shit, what if I could have found a way to feel like this 4 years ago? But I don't have that option now. I'm 39. But I think anybody that can battle through that and keep fighting and keep fighting, I mean, I admire the shit out of it, because I couldn't. I tapped out mentally. I was just completely broken. And I'll tell you, it was really nice when I was done. My dad asked me if I wanted a beer, and I didn't have to think about it. It's just, I'll take the beer, because there's no game tomorrow. There's no training or rehab going on. Like mentally, I was so worn down that I couldn't keep pushing. But I look back at it now and I'm like, if I would have been more open-minded and tried different things like I do now. I worked with a PT here 2 years ago because I couldn't do anything with my knees were so wrecked. And I finally got my knees healthy. And then when I got my knees healthy, my arms stopped hurting because I was able to use my legs again. So I look back at it now, I'm like, shit, what if I would have just kept doing this, kept doing that, and found it again? It would be so worth it to still be playing or just play one more year. And when it's over, it's over. So I think a guy like Sale probably had to ask himself those questions that we're talking about. Like, is this it? Am I done? Am I ever going to be the same? And he gets to be back and doing this. I mean,
and for a good
he wants to do
team
it forever now. Yeah, he probably wants to play 10 more years.
And it's got to be different than when you're doing it. If you came back like this and you're going out pitching your ass off every 5 days, but your team has no chance to win it all. So he knows this team has a chance, and he's seeing Max Fried doing it. He's seeing Ronaldo Lopez doing it. He's seeing Charlie, who's 5 years older than him. So, and he's never said he's never been in a clubhouse that's as good as this one. He said that every day coming to the park, it's so relaxed, it's fun. He said, and the staff let you be yourself. So that's all kind of been a perfect storm for him. And I think it'd be different if he'd done this coming back for a team that was out of it and all this. He has said he had kind of, I got a sense that if it had one more injury, whether it was a serious one or a freak injury or whatever, it might have made him think about it. But because he has said he really going into this offseason, he was finally healthy. He said, I'm going for it. I'm going to make a push. I owe it to the team. At the time, it was Boston. Then he got
Yeah.
traded Braves. Right at that time, he was starting his offseason training. So it kind of rejuvenated him even more. So he starts going up to the Braves complex, which is an hour from his house in Florida, and this is in January. So it kind of relit the fire that was already started, but he was kind of gathering himself to like, I'm healthy. I'm going to see what I can do. I know everybody's written me off and all this, but then he got a second life with the Braves. And the smartest thing they did was giving him that 2-year extension because he was in the
Yeah.
last year of a
No
deal.
stress,
You
no
don't have to worry
pressure.
about pushing through stuff and,
Yep.
trying to prove something this year. Just go out and pitch. So that was a stroke. That was genius there. And he's a bargain. He's a bargain pitching like this.
Yeah.
So,
My
and they gave
first
up
game
nothing.
back from Tommy John felt like being a rookie again. It was so much fun to be out there and have it mean something. So I'm guessing that's what he feels like. I bet he feels like just brand new and excited to compete, and he's back, and I don't see him slowing down.
And the people that played with him, like in Chicago, guys like AJ Brzezinski and Tyler Flowers, say this is the most competitive guy they've been around. And I
Yeah.
think that's the kind of thing that allows you to battle through this stuff. And then when you get out there, you see him. He's as fired up as he was when he just broke into the league.
Yeah.
And that's that ultra competitiveness. That's what you can do those kind of things,
I
kind of
want to
like
see
Michael
him pitch
Jordan.
in Philly in the playoffs.
Oh
I want
yeah.
to see that matchup.
I want to see this guy in the postseason, man.
Yeah.
It's been a while for him. He was the guy that wanted the ball on short rest with the Red Sox to get the last out in the World Series. The Braves have two guys that did that, got the last out
Yeah.
in the World Series, Charlie and him,
Yep.
come in as relievers when they were starters to get the last out. Darno always points to that. Says that means something. Having two
Oh
guys
yeah.
on your rotation that have that mentality, that means a lot.
Yeah, I'll jog down there and start throwing. You
Yeah.
want
So
me?
they just need to
Yeah.
get those two guys, make sure they're healthy, make sure their four starters are healthy. Because for a 7-game series, you're four. I like the Braves more than anybody's four if they're healthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody's four. So, but it's a long way to go. First, you got to get there. And, but we've talked about this. The 3 games behind the Phillies right now, it could be one like it's been in recent years where the Braves have kind of dragged that second team, or the Mets dragged the Braves through that series when the Braves caught them at the end of the year. This race is going to keep those two teams going strong the whole year because they're going to
Yeah.
be the Braves aren't going to fall far enough back, or the Phillies aren't going to fall far enough back if they catch them, where they're not going to keep chasing it, and it's going to carry these two teams into the all the way to the end of the year. And we've talked about that. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for the Braves not to win the
No.
division and have to play a wild card series. That wouldn't be. You don't
I
want to
would,
have to
yeah.
do it, but you also don't want that last 2 years with that damn 5-day break to, come into effect and play with your head. Are we doing this right this year? What do we
Yeah.
need to do during this 5-day break?
It's not something you shoot for, but it wouldn't scare me. It'd be I definitely think that it's good to stay engaged until the end of the season.
Yeah, me
I
too.
think that the worst thing that can happen is you have a 10-game lead. You get to have all those rest days and easy games, for the last, say, 10 games of the season. And then you have 5 days off. So you've been playing meaningless games and then you get to sit for 5. That's the worst.
Snicker and Alex would never, never admit it, even if they were
Yeah,
thinking this.
you can't.
But in their heads, and when they're having their meetings, and probably to each other, the way they're spacing out the starts for the starters and giving them extra start, and we'll know when they bring a minor league or when they bring up one of the prospects or one of the guys from AAA like Spencer Straver, when they bring one of the, because they got a stretch coming up with like 17 games in 17 days. So far, they've had all these off days. They played fewer games than anybody. They
Yeah.
played like 5 fewer games than the Phillies and the
Like every
Dodgers.
time we do a podcast, there's a day off that just happened or it's the
Right.
next day.
So far, they've been able to use these off days and give Sale and Lopez and by extension the rest of the starters too extra rest.
Yeah.
And it's really been, I think, beneficial for Lopez and Sale in their situations. But they got this stretch coming up with 17 and 17 days, I think it is. We're going to know if they bring up once or twice, bring up a guy from the minor leagues as a 6th starter. just to give them extra rest. We're going to know that they are determined. They're aiming for the postseason and keeping these guys healthy and not waving a white flag about the division, but it's be secondary to what they do in the postseason. In other words, if they get in as a wild card, that's fine. If we keep these guys healthy, I think that's what they're saying to each other. And that probably is a priority, is being healthy for the postseason and not, I mean, the division, they want to win it. Yeah, they've won 6 in a row, but it's not as important as what happened in the postseason last year. That's
No,
what this team wants to win a World Series. They don't want to win a damn 7th division title. It wants to, but that's
no. I mean,
secondary to get in the postseason.
all you ever hear about is the 15 straight and the one World Series.
Yeah,
You know, that
14.
or
Yeah.
14 straight in the World Series. Like
Yep.
everybody brings that up.
Right.
So
Everybody.
everybody, anytime you talk about that era, it's yeah, but they only won one. So I
Team
mean
of the
that's all,
90s, but
but
14 in a row, but 3 Hall
yeah.
of Famers, but Bobby Cox looks great, but, you know,
So you creep into that when you've won 6 in a row and
yeah.
you
And the
know,
Dodgers, same way.
yeah,
They're on that kind of run too, and they've only won one in this short season.
yeah.
So,
I think it's so hard. Baseball is so random. There's so much shit that can come up. Somebody can have a bad start, and then somebody on the other team happens to be hot. Castellanos hits 5 homers in a game. Something weird, like
yeah,
so much can happen in baseball. I think that's why players fought so long to just not let half the league in. And
right,
basically, we're there now. You know,
right.
there's so many teams getting in that, especially in that. I think though the 3 game is even more. It seems like the better teams have been winning, but the
It's
3 games,
precarious.
yeah, that's scary too.
Yeah. That's where you got to feel good, though, about having starters like Sale and Freed
Yeah,
and Lopez who've done it all year. You got to feel
yeah.
better about your chances than doing it with okay, one starter like an ace, but then your second and third starters are okay, they're good enough, but we're doing it with offense because we can outscore people.
Yeah.
You got
And
to
then you
feel a
run
lot
into
better
Wheeler
having,
and yeah.
yeah, you got to feel a lot better having 3 really good starters where you can get through maybe sweep that thing in 2 games and still have one of your third studs to go for the opener
So
of the
National League
division
wouldn't have that
series.
extra day this year, right?
I have to look at it if the schedule is out for the specific days, but I don't think they wouldn't have it 2 days, 2 years in a row.
Yeah. So that was when I look back at that series last year, I'm like, how'd they face Wheeler,
Yeah,
at this
they have the
point?
extra day built in between
Yeah.
games 1 and 2 in the division
Yeah.
series,
Yeah.
which really hurt them last year.
Yeah.
it
And it hurt him this year if the tables were turned,
it
it'd be
certainly helps the
flipped.
team that has to play the wild card series with
That'd be
that's got
another
2 or 3.
reason to really shoot for the division.
Yeah, so I know they want to win the division, but it's just I know it's not as important to them as what they do in the postseason, and I think we're going to find out if they because I really do expect them to bring up some guys from the minors to give these guys extra rest. I don't know how they're going to work it, but they'll find a way. Alex is brilliant when it comes to that shit. So, but just real quick, I wanted to mention a couple of. I did a thing today on some prospects. I hope everybody reads it. It really first time I've really dove deep into what the prospects are doing because we're doing something at the Athletic this year where we're dividing them into tiers, putting a few guys in it that are exceeding expectations or on fast track might get promoted. Guys that are doing just what they're expected to do, moving through the thing, and then guys that may be struggling or hurt or whatever. So, but I went digging into the stats because all I'd normally do with these prospects is look at what they've done for the whole year. I don't really go into the game day by day, so it can be
No.
misleading if you
Yeah.
see a guy that's got a 4 ERA, a 3.5 ERA, and you go, he's doing okay. But then you look at it, you realize, okay, he got blown up in his first start or first 2, and he's on a hell of a roll. So I dug into some of these guys yesterday, and I think they're relevant because of we might see one of them sooner than later. Hurston Waldrop, the stud from Florida, who was pitching for the University of Florida this time a year ago. Got to remember that.
Yeah.
Their first round pick. What this guy's doing in Double A this year, he ended the season last year in Triple A, but that was only because the Double A team was done and they wanted him to get one more start. We saw him in camp. Still had some things to work on, but you saw the arm and the splitter is just devastating. I mean, his splitter, when he gets here, is going to be one of the best 2 or 3 splitters in the major leagues the day he arrives. And he's also got a mid to upper 90s heater, too, that he probably doesn't throw enough. Maybe he's doing it more right now. I'm not sure. But that splitter's so good that, I mean, those 2 pitches, this guy is, and he's got other pitches too. But anyway, at Double A Mississippi right now, he gave up in his first start of the season. This was after getting sent down from minor league camp. Then he goes to Double A. I'm sure he's just kind of head spinning at that point, going, "That sucks," whatever. He gave up 11 hits, 7 runs in his first start, and didn't make it out of the third inning. Right, so you spent some time trying to whittle that down. Second start, 4 and a third innings, gave up 4 hits, 3 runs, and 4 walks. Okay, so that screws up his numbers and all that. So I, kind of dismiss him. I'm not paying close attention to him. Then I look at what he's done since then. This guy in 5 starts since then, 1.16 ERA, 572 opponents OPS, 26 strikeouts, 9 walks, 31 innings. He makes his last night he's pitching a Double A in a doubleheader. Or no, he pitched 2 days ago. But he's got against Biloxi. Yeah, it was yesterday, doubleheader. Against Biloxi yesterday, he goes 8 innings for the first time this year, gives up 6 hits, 1 run, no walks, 8 strikeouts. He's given up in his last 5 starts. He's given up 1 or no earned runs in all 5 starts. And gone 6, 6, 5 2/3, 5 1/3, 8 innings. The hits allowed. Yeah, I mean, the walks and the strikeouts now are through the roof. And he's given up no runs. He gave up 10 earned runs in his first 2 starts. He's given up 4 earned runs in his last 5 starts. I mean, he's rolling.
Splitters, man. Splitters are just different. That a guy with a major league splitter, you really only need 2 pitches.
Yeah,
it's nice to have a third or a fourth or whatever else you want to mix in, but I mean, every starter you could think of that had a legit, just unhittable splitter, I mean, they have long careers as long as they stay healthy.
Yeah, so I mean, opponent's OPS is under 300 for those 5 starts, and that's even with a 4-walk start thrown in there. In the last 3, and I'm only dwelling on this guy because I think we're going to see him this summer. Because this is not the kind of guy that needs to spend a lot of time in the upper minors. It's not like it used to be where he's in Double A now and they go, yeah, but he's still got to go to Triple A and make a bunch of starts. The Braves have shown they don't care about that. If the guy's ready.
I noticed no difference between Double A and Triple A. Triple A was just the same level, but the guys were older. They might be able to pick up tips, or there were some savvy hitters there, but it didn't seem, when I went, every time I've pitched in Double A or Triple A, it was the same game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I hear from everybody that goes through those steps now. But what I've seen in the evolution in the last 3 decades is AAA used to be where your top prospects ended up before you called them up. It's changed over the years, and I think part of that is some teams like the Braves have the AAA team so close. Yeah. So what you have is most of your best young prospects are in Double A, and your AAA guys are a lot of journeyman types, a lot of experienced major leaguers who are bouncing
emergency
around.
Guys.
Yeah. So the Braves can call up guys from AAA to fill in for a day or 2,
Yeah.
And so they got a lot of older guys there, like Sandy Leon's the backup catcher there now. They've always got guys there now that are like in their upper 20s, early 30s, and not many of their top young prospects there. They have a few of them there, but a lot of them, they usually have more of those in Double A and even High A than they do in Triple A these days. And we saw, like with Harris, for instance, they brought him up from Double A. We saw him do that with Soroka when he faced the Mets in his debut. But anyway, so the point is, you don't have to spend time in Triple A. Some of these guys, they call up Smith Shawver from Double A, and then they go back to Triple A when they get sent down.
Triple A can be a tough place because you have a lot of guys that are, reading the writing on the wall. This is my life. I've had my shots in the big leagues. I'm going to be an up and down guy. I need somebody to get hurt. I mean, there's just a lot. There can be a lot of negativity in AAA.
Yeah.
Double A is full of hope.
Right.
So it's
That's a good way to put it.
You'd rather have a guy in Double A around a bunch of guys that are hopeful they're going to play in the majors, and maybe their story's not written yet, because a lot of the guys in AAA, their story's written, and those happen to be your leaders too, because they kind of have tenure and time. And so if you're not careful, your AAA clubhouse can be one of the ugliest places on earth. And it's a sad place, for a lot of guys. So if you have the wrong leaders, maybe guys you need, a guy can handle catching. You can call him today and he can call pitches and everything, but he's also dealing with the fact every day that he's never going to be a big league regular.
Yep.
That guy can be kind of who your prospect's interacting with every day, or the other guy that's throwing 97 and might get called up this year, and you can kind of feed off each other and talk about how cool it'd be if we both get called up. Like it's a different environment. I'd rather have guys in Double A.
And I think that's why it's also important to have a great general manager who doesn't just look at the major league team.
Yep.
You see Alex making all these moves, and you're like, well, why'd they go get Sandy Leon or whatever? But he makes sure that he's got the right guys, the right chemistry, not just in the major league clubhouse, but you have good character guys there too, because he doesn't want guys like that are, crusty journeymen who still believe in, hazing young guys or making them pay their due. He doesn't want those guys there. He wants the same atmosphere, in all the clubhouses. So the character goes at all levels.
Yeah, when I got called up to AAA, there's a bunch of dudes like that there. That I mean, it was just dumpy, and they asked me, they're like, "Who, you came up? Where you coming from?" And I said, "Double A," and they said, "Were you doing good?" I said, "Yeah." They're like, "What were your numbers?" And I said, "Whatever I had. I had like 20 games with like a 1 ERA." And they were like, "Oh shit, somebody's getting released or sent down." Like that was my welcome to AAA. Is
they resented you being there
immediately, and I'm 21 and they're in their early 30s, and it's just that constant reality of like there's better guys coming every year for a lot of guys in AAA. So it could just get like that.
They're not looking at it as, oh yeah, you could help us win right now. They're looking at it as, oh fuck, he's going to take his job.
Nobody cares
man.
about making the AAA playoffs.
Yeah. So anyway, just to sum it up on Hurston Waldrop, his last 3 starts, 2-0, 0.95 ERA, 225 opponents average, but 273 opponents OBP and 540 opponents OPS. Last 3 starts, 16 strikeouts, 4 walks in 19 innings, no homers. He's not given up a homer since he gave up 2 homers in his first 2 starts. He's given up no homers in his last 5 starts.
Yeah, that keep split, the ball man. In the park with the split.
Yeah. And keeps it down with the fastball. We're going to see him before long. I don't want to say see him before Smith-Shawver because Smith-Shawver's got some experience up here. He's at AAA, and he's easier to call up when they need a guy right now. But Hurston Waldrop ain't far behind, man. I don't think. And then the other guy that I wanted to cite, because Smith-Shawver, I mean, the Braves are putting a good face on him. They say he's up to 100, by the way. He's touched 100 some recently, so he's working on all his pitches, his feel for pitches. We talked about last year when he came up. The guy didn't start pitching until after his junior year in high school.
Yeah.
So people forget he's still 21.
Yeah.
And he's made like 48 starts, professional starts at any level, including the majors. That's it. So he's still learning, getting a feel for pitching because he wasn't these travel ball guys at 12 years old, and he's been doing it forever,
48 starts is a season and a half. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, a full season, 48. If you think about making 30 or 32, like that's
season and a half
worth of starting pitching.
So they're not down on him like some people might look at his numbers and see, okay, he had better numbers in the major leagues last year than he has in AAA right now. But they're not worried about the numbers. They're worried about what he's doing. And they said he's executing his pitches. He's taking the ball every time out. He's not hurt. He's getting his innings. He's hitting 100 with his fastball. So they like where he's at. But these other guys that are coming fast, man, are really promising. Their minor league system is not bereft of position guys. They have some, but they don't have a lot. But they got some pitching coming, man. And as we know, that's much more important for this team because they don't need a lot of position guys. They got guys signed at every. They got. That's the thing is people that worry about their minor league system being ranked 26 because they don't have any position guys. It's like, okay, but they got guys signed. Most of their guys are signed for the next 5 to 8 years. So, but their pitching though is coming along. They didn't have these kind of pitchers in the minor league system 3 or 4 years ago. No. They were bringing up guys crossing their fingers and hoping, The other guy I wanted to cite was Schwellenbach. Now, you probably haven't heard a lot about him since they drafted him in the 2nd round out of Nebraska. He was a shortstop and a pitcher at Nebraska, stud, athletic, built guy. He had Tommy John missed a whole year, and they knew that. He had Tommy John missed a whole year in the minors. Now he's coming on strong, man. And he was so dominant at high A early that they promoted him this year after just 6 starts at high A this year. He makes his debut yesterday in the same doubleheader against Biloxi. He goes in his double A debut, 6 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. His double A debut.
Yeah.
His last 7 starts, this kid's got a 2.13 ERA, 209 opponents average, 267 opponents OBP, real control guy, great command, ground balls, strikeouts, 555 opponents OPS, his last 7 starts, including his double A debut, at 43 strikeouts and 10 walks in 38 innings.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I didn't notice. I mean, coming up through the minors, I didn't really notice any jump that was like, okay, now it's challenging.
Uh-huh.
It felt like it was all up to me. Like if I made pitches, I was getting outs anywhere. Like one year I had a 7 ERA in single A because I sucked. I was just not making pitches. But I feel like these guys, if they're ready and they're making pitches and they have major league stuff,
Yeah.
the entire hurdle is just like when you're coming up, everybody says, well, that ball's going to get hit in double A.
Yeah.
I got to double A and it didn't get hit. And then well, when triple A, they're going to be ready for that. And I didn't really notice any difference when I was locked in. So if these guys are locked in, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't move them up fast.
Yeah, because they're facing some damn good hitters in double A, man.
Yeah.
You got like the guy's background and everything. He's real athletic, obviously. From Saginaw, Michigan, went to Nebraska, was drafted by the Indians out of high school in 34th round, went to Nebraska, and drafted in 2nd round by the Braves in 2021. And the reason I think we might see him sooner than later too is he turns 24 at the end of this month. He's not some kid he's not Smith Shawver, you know?
Right.
He's 4 years older than Smith Shawver, basically, 3 years older.
And that maturity from 20 to 24 is insane too.
Yeah, this guy's a man.
Jump. Yeah.
He's not a kid. You know,
and I think going through injuries and stuff like that, you get a chance to kind of learn and watch the game from a different perspective, get out of your ways and mature in different ways. So I wouldn't be afraid to move a guy that's 24 up quick because especially if you're him too, you want to get answers. Like I want to get up to the big leagues and get my career started.
And Waldrop was a college guy. So again, he's young. He's not old, but he's also not 20, 21. So there's 3 right there because Smith Shawver obviously has been up here. They know what he can do, and it's just a matter of putting it all together. But there's 3 guys for the future, though, and they got others too. They got this Mejia kid is dominant this year, but those are 3 that have major league potential. These are mid 90 to upper 90 fastball guys that have a second pitch, and in the case of Waldrop, the splitter's his best pitch, but he's also got a mid upper 90s heater. So those are 3 legit guys. These aren't the kind of prospects the Braves had, pitching prospects a few years ago, where is that major league stuff? These guys. There's no question about the stuff. So
seems like there were so many that were here. We're talking about them and they're doing really good in AAA, and they come up and just give up a 7 spot in 3 innings and go back down. It was like a rotating door, or like a revolving door of just a guy that just wasn't quite there to pitch in the big leagues.
Like low 90s stuff, an okay curveball,
or mid 90s with dynamite stuff and no control. Like there was each one of them, it seemed like it was painful to watch because they would come up and they'd either like have their first game would be good, second game would be good, and then blow up back to AAA. But there hasn't been these guys coming up that you're like, oh, this guy's legit going to be here a while.
Yeah. And I think they've done a better job in the draft in that they're not trying to game it by taking guys under slot or over slot or sign. Like at the one time, they didn't have any money to spend basically. And they were drafting guys way higher than they should have because they knew they were signable at a lower value.
Yeah.
At lower prices. And they're not doing that now. They're going the other direction now, if anything, and they're spending money. They're taking risks on guys that might sign or might not because they usually have some assurances they will, but they're just signing a higher level of pitchers right now that
Yeah.
they're bringing up, and guys with stuff. They're doing a lot better job with that. And sign with college guys, not
College
just
guys are
tons of,
huge.
yeah, not just all these high school kids that you really have. It's such a gamble. You don't know how they're going to develop when you're scouting them at 17, you know?
Yeah, I think the college, it's such a good it's just a good way to find out, how they're going to handle tougher competition than especially when you're in high school. I mean, if you're in the Northwest or anywhere north, it's one thing if you're in Texas or Florida or
Yeah.
California and you're playing basically college level kids by high school. But some of these high school kids you draft, it's like I was throwing 91 right down the middle in high school and nobody could touch it because that was the second time in their life they'd seen 91.
Yeah.
So if you're throwing 97 in high school, you're not going to be challenged. But you take 97 to college, you're going to face a lot of hitters that can hit it, and you're going to have to learn how to pitch. So it's a good way to kind of just give guys more time to show you who they're going to be.
Yeah. It's, yeah, there's different schools of thoughts on the high school and the college guys. You might see some high school guy that you think has a higher ceiling or whatever,
Yeah.
but with Tommy John and all these guys getting it now too, a lot of these college guys, they've already had it and they've gone through it. And in the like when you got Strider, he'd already had it in college,
And they wear them out in college.
Oh
Throw
yeah.
like 130 pitch games or, pitch on Friday and come out of the pen 3 days later. Like they put them through some shit in college.
So anyway, the future's bright, I think, with the Braves pitching, and that's important because a lot of these guys we're talking about are, Sale signed for 2 years. Charlie could retire after this year. We don't know. Max is only signed through this year, but and Strider should be back at the start of next year. Lopez is signed for 3 years. Great deal. What a deal. But out of those three I mentioned, and there's a couple of others, but if you can just hit on one or two of those guys in the immediate future, it's really going to help your rotation. And they're planning on that.
Yeah, especially not knowing what's going to happen with Max.
Yeah.
You have to fill that spot if he's gone.
Oh, he keeps pitching
Big
like
shoes
he
to
is
fill.
right now. He is going to make a big ass contract. He keeps this up.
Yeah, I wonder if you're the team, if you're almost, we don't want him to do too good.
No, I'm making an offer right now if they haven't.
Yeah.
I'm doing it, I'm doing it mid-season. Get it done at the All-Star break.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we got 3-game series, wraparound, one of those weird wraparound. What'd you think of those when this one's a Friday? This is a Friday through Monday 4-game, one of those wraparound series against the Padres coming up. And the
I
weird
didn't mind
thing,
if they were back-to-back day games, but I didn't like playing a day game against a team and then seeing them the next day because it just never happened. So it was awkward.
and this one, the Padres got another Sunday night game. So they're going to play the Padres on Sunday night and then play them again at noon on Monday, 12:20. That's weird.
That's the worst.
And then go to Chicago. You got 2 night games at Chicago to start instead of all day games. It's a Tuesday through Thursday series there. So you go night game, day game. And then straight to Pittsburgh for 3. Yeah, after today, you do not have another off day in the schedule. The Braves are going to catch up with some of these teams now because they've had all these off. They had 3. This is 5 consecutive Thursdays the Braves have had off. How crazy is that?
That might be something that gets the offense hot, honestly.
5 consecutive and 6 out of 7 Thursdays they've had off.
Yeah, I feel like they've had 30 off days already. I sit down to check what's going on in the Braves game. I'm like, oh shit, they weren't playing today.
Yeah. So they don't have another off day. They start once they get back tomorrow. They do not have another off day until June the 3rd. June the 3rd. You got 4 against the Padres, 3 against the Cubs, 3 against the Pirates, 4 against the Nationals, 3 against Oakland. Fortunately, man, those last 7, well, the Nationals are no pushover right now, but those last 7, and Oakland's playing a lot better than they did a lot better.
They got a few pitchers too.
They're not like the
I bet
Marlins.
This is when they get hot. I bet this stretch of playing every day, this is when they get hot.
I think so too. That's when they did last year when they got on their best rolls was when they weren't having all these off days.
Yeah.
So it stresses your pitching, but for your offense, you can really start clicking, get on a roll here.
I bet the offense starts mashing.
Yeah, and you're not, and even though Oakland and Washington and the Nats are playing so much better, they're not the Marlins like right now, for instance. They're not going to face the kind of pitching they've been facing.
They're not
Where
the
they
Mariners and Dodgers with their pitching.
No, Mariners, Dodgers, Cleveland, Boston.
Yeah.
They face some great pitching. The
Yeah.
Cubs.
Yeah.
I mean, they played Shota the other night. I mean, they face some great pitching. They're not gonna face that kind of pitching. Cubs have got some pitchers next week. Padres have got a couple, but with Pittsburgh, the Nationals, and Oakland in the last 2 weeks of that stretch, you're not going to face the kind of pitching that you've been facing. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll talk again next week after this Padres series, and appreciate everybody watching us. And I think it's going to be an interesting go here with the Phillies because they're for real, man. A lot of guys have their number one team in baseball right now.
I wouldn't go that far.
7:55 forever.